Hi, and welcome to the Tori and Meg podcast because we haven't come up with another name for it yet.
Yeah,
So,
I'm Meg.
I'm Tori, and this is my favorite No, I'm just kidding. That's a different podcast.
It's a very good podcast. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Oh, heck yeah. So today, we're going to be talking about female characters and, wild things happening.
It's gonna get wild.
A little bit. So, I'd like to start off asking who, some of your favorite female characters are.
Yeah. When you say favorite female characters, my immediate response is Katie Miller from Illuminae. Actually,
I haven't seen that.
is her last name Miller?
I don't know.
It's Katie. Katie Grant. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So Katie Grant from the Illuminae series. She is a fantastic female character. She is everything I want to be and more. She's so sassy and sarcastic, and she's a computer genius, and she's so good at hacking. And in the Illuminae series, it's a sci-fi series where these people their planet gets attacked by Bitech, which is this crazy bad industry, and so they get into their escape ships, or anybody who was left alive tried to get into their escape ships, and there were 3 ships that fled Carenza, and the Bitech was following them, and it's this whole series of artificial intelligence gone wrong, multiple of their ships taking out their other ships. It is a very good series.
That's super cool. I have to watch it. What is it on?
It's not it's a book series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I picked up that series and then I was like, no time to read books, and then put it back down. But
so they're really thick boy books, but they're 600 pages a piece.
Oh yeah,
that's read so fast.
I love books like that. When I was reading John Dies at the End, it was over that.
That's such a good book
for sure. So you mentioned that she was really sassy. She had amazing hacking skills. Obviously she had to be really smart. So what are kind of the characteristics that draw you to certain characters, female or otherwise?
I feel so this is gonna sound really edgy, but as a punk's not dead type personality.
Heck yes.
As an alternative fan, as a grungy kid or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to the characters that I can relate with, and so if they have a punk complex, or if they have this complexity of being the weird one or an oddball, I'm always drawn to those characters.
Yeah, kind of like the basket case.
Yeah.
Breakfast Club. You
yeah,
know?
Yeah. And so Katie, with her specifically, she has pink hair, and she's just no one really likes her at school because she's super sassy, and she's the jock's girlfriend, and it's just there's the whole complex of her is punk's not dead. I don't care what you think. I'm gonna be unapologetically myself, and that confidence I think is what really drew me to her.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think it's always especially as young teenagers who we both are very into that punk scene. I mean, I work at Hot Topic, let's be real, right?
Yeah.
I think we both kind of love the whole angsty, screw you, I can be who I want to be, kind of thing. So this is kind of a conversation surrounding quote unquote perfect female characters.
Okay.
And it kind of happened through so this is for my classic lit class, right? And we're taking a piece of modern literature and classic literature and kind of connecting them through themes and all that fun jazz. So I did a play called The Lady Macbeth of the Mnetz District. It's a really Russian word with one vowel, and so really hard to pronounce. But it's a whack play. Okay, it is whack. And then my modern text was Maleficent.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
The main thing that connects the two pieces is that the two female characters are kind of the protagonists, but they're also murderers. Both of them are kind of evil.
Okay, that's fantastic. What a connection.
And so, but in the play, the character Katerina is really stupid. She's ridiculously stupid. So originally, I was going to do an art piece. I was going to do a painting for my piece, which you can see, because I'll have my rough drafts laid out and everything for TigerCon. But I was talking to Torres about it, like we were conferencing about it, and
Mhm.
I just had this moment where it wasn't like a meltdown. It was just kind of like this rant about like, why, I don't understand this character. Like, I don't get, like, why would she do this? Like, she's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like she's seemingly like this really cool character who, like, she saves another chick from being sexually assaulted, but then just like randomly is like with this dude, like, hey, let's wrestle. I'm strong. And then, and then she just like, all these male characters kind of happen, and then she gets like persuaded into an affair with this guy who's like really, he's awful, he's terrible. But I'm just like, so many parts of her character contradict each other. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. And so, like, after I kind of had this little rant, Torres was just like, first of all, that was really entertaining to watch. And second of all, I kind of pointed out that I could kind of explore this idea of like a perfect female character.
Yeah.
And so, Katarina, who is that, like, the Lady Macbeth, she's the main character. She's raped. Like, it's terrible. The story is really, it's kind of a really dark play. But the scene in Maleficent where her wings are taken and like she's drugged is like really reminiscent of rape for me.
Yeah.
And I think if you kind of watch it again, that you'll really see that. And so, you know, you see both of these women who are really hurt by men who they trusted, and then go on to do these terrible things, you know. But for Maleficent, like, we love her as a character because we kind of see her backstory. And I need to watch the second one because I think it's out now. But it was just really interesting because those are, like, you know, like, bad, fierce female characters, but they're also terrible people.
Yeah.
You know?
See, and, like, okay, so the whole concept of, like, not being able to be a fierce femme, like a femme fatale, without being a terrible person is, like, really difficult. Because I feel like one of the, and even, so I was thinking about, like, Katniss, you know, in the Hunger Games, but she's still seen, like, in multiple different perspectives, you can view her as a horrible person.
Right. Like, there's still, like, she was forced to do these things, but, like, killing people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just weird that those are, like, you can
widely loved characters.
That, and
it's
they're
like
parallel. Like, they can't, you cannot have, like, a fierce femme without them being a horrible person.
Well, like, I mean, it's a similar thing with, like, male characters. But, like, it's like never that we view them in the way of, like, you know, because, and with almost all heroes, they're viewed as, like, well, they were forced to do it, they had to do it, you know, like, it was this or the world is ending.
Yeah.
And I think showing more of that internal struggle will really help humanize them. But the one thing that really came to mind was Cardi B.
Yeah.
Because everyone loves her. And I personally don't listen to her music just because, like, it's just not my style of music to listen to, right? But
we only listen to punk music.
Stop. It's not true. It's not true. There's classic rock in there too. you know?
Yeah.
But, like, when people are shocked to hear me say, like, oh, I don't like Cardi B, like, she's not a good person.
She's not a good person.
No, like, I was just talking to somebody the other day, but, like, she has done some really terrible things. Like, abused so many people. And I have to remember what I was saying, but it was just like drugging and raping a man and, like, hiring people to beat up sex workers for her, who were, like, with her husband, and, like, just being really verbally abrasive to people. And I feel like that's one of the times where if that was coming from a, like, male politician, oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They would get
jail.
Yeah.
Like, jail time.
Yeah.
But
they would get essentially blackballed from politics almost immediately.
Yeah. But with Cardi B, like, she's an entertainer, and she's seen as this really powerful woman, like, I'm gonna be, you know.
Yeah, she's a fierce femme.
Bad. But it's like, oh my gosh. Like, we have to realize that these are people being hurt, and, like,
she's attacking different like, minority groups.
Yeah.
And, like, that's not okay.
No, like, we can't endorse that.
No.
So I just think it's
definitely something that I've, like, thought of. And, like, my grandma and I actually had a conversation about this kind of recently. How, like, there's so many things that like our society condones without like realizing that they're condoning it. And I feel like Cardi B is just like a really good example of that. But that's like a whole nother tangent.
Do you think there is a such thing as a perfect female character, or do you think it's possible to attain kind of that title of like a perfect female character?
So, okay, when you ask me that question, the first thing I jump to is how subjective the word perfect is.
Yeah.
Because just for like an example, like my ideal of a perfect female character would be so different from anybody else's idea of a perfect female character. And I feel like age and like gender and like all of like the like socioeconomic factors, like this factors of socialization all come into play when you're talking about the idea of perfection. Because like if I like, let's say like I was Christian, then obviously my perfect female character would like practice Christianity and like be almost a saint figure in her own way, in addition with being like a perfect like either wife or mother or whatever that is. But see, like in my personal definition of perfect, I don't think a perfect female character needs to be a wife, needs to be a mother. I just think that they need to like be able to like support themselves and to like empower themselves, but also like empower themselves without dragging other people down. And that's so hard to achieve, especially in a work of literature, because like you have to have some sort of plot and conflict, like plots are conflict driven. And so I feel like I don't think you can have a perfect female character.
I really don't think it's possible, just like what you were saying, because you know, to us, we love those kind of like angsty stick it to the man characters. Whereas like other people, you know, maybe
like my grandma would see her as a horrible person to begin with and wouldn't see any good in her.
It's almost like it reminds me of Captain America versus Iron Man, which is interesting that we're using male characters to like represent a female situation. Kind of whack, you know. But Captain America is very like this very moral figure of like, do it the right way, get it done, put the work in. Whereas Iron Man is just like, I know how I'm gonna do this. Don't mess with my methods. And, you know.
And there's the whole, like purist thing, like the purist figure with Cap, because he's always like, language. You know, like he's got this whole, like, complex of, like, purity and, like, good and, like, perfection. Whereas, you know, Iron Man, Tony, he's just himself, you know.
Love him.
Love all of them.
Honestly, yes. For sure. Do you think there's a perfect male character? I mean, they can't be perfect. They're male, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
That's still sexism. Ha ha ha.
I don't think you can have a perfect character.
No.
Because, like, in order for a character... Okay, so you could...
Whoa, hold on. Baby Yoda is perfect.
Okay.
Baby Yoda's perfect.
Baby Yoda is perfect.
We don't even know Baby Yoda's gender.
No.
Baby Yoda is perfect. He's precious. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. Okay, we're getting off track. Okay, yeah.
But even with Baby Yoda, like, if we look at that example, right? Like, he, like... Okay. I feel bad for saying this, but I'm just going to bring up this anyway.
I might have to fight you.
Please don't fight me. So, vegans obviously don't view Yoda as a perfect character because he eats frogs. Like, he eats live frogs. So, therefore, he can't be, like, a perfect character according to different perspectives. Like, obviously, vegans, like, I don't want to call vegans out. Like, maybe they're not, like, meh, you know? But, like, also, like, he eats frogs. Like, he eats living things. And so, in some cultures' ideas, that's...
plants are living things.
Oh, my God.
Sentient beings. He eats sentient beings.
Yeah, he does. So, I don't know, I just want to throw that out there.
Okay.
But, like, yeah, perfect male characters. I don't think you can have a perfect character in general. Because there's like I said, like plot is so conflict driven, and I feel like in order to have a character that's beloved by many different people, there's got to be this like change where they can relate to the change that's happening or be proud of the character for change.
Well, and you know, when you really look at writing, like good writers break their characters.
Exactly.
And so if you know, find a story where they do that thing and they break their characters and you know, maybe they do something completely out of their character, then like obviously, you know, by definition they're not quote unquote perfect, but like the makeup of their character, like I don't know.
I think of like Edgar from King Lear. Have you ever read King Lear?
No.
Shakespeare? It just reminds me of Edgar because like he like there's like so because of like there's this conflict in him, and like his like ignorance is seen as a burden and as bliss, like a blessing and a burden.
Yeah.
And so there's just like that constant like back and forth between Edgar that like only the audience can see. Also, you should read King Lear. It's
I'll
very
do
good.
it.
Yeah.
I will. I'll put it on my list of books that I need to read. Do you think we so there's okay, and I kind of talked about this with Miss Nickel, but I'm going to ask you the same thing.
Perfect.
So when you're looking at really accurate, quote unquote, like perfect female characters, I think we have this idea of kind of an idealized female character. Like, she's strong, she's a queen. Like, yes, she's doing what she's need to do. She's a role model, almost like Oprah, you know, Michelle Obama.
Oprah.
Heck yeah. I mean,
Who doesn't?
who
love
doesn't?
Oprah?
Who doesn't? But then you have, like, the really real characters who are like, this is a human, you know.
Yeah.
She sweats. She flatulates. She, oh my God, like, she's a real person. Almost like, I don't know. Do you have a preference of, like, what you like to see or what you think is better for other people to see, at least when kind of absorbing media? Because obviously, like, pop culture and media affects us so much, and so seeing, you know, those idealized female characters, I think, kind of teach us, you know, what we should shoot for, whereas seeing those really like real favorite male characters kind of remind us like we're human and it's okay to screw up and to be disgusting sometimes and to just like be a person.
I feel like I always prefer a healthy balance of both, because like I said, like one of my favorite female, like strong female lead is Katie from Illuminae. Going back to her, she is seen as she's such a real person, but like she's still like she's got this like empowerment system where she's like so strong and empowering, and she's like a woman in STEM, which it's in and of itself is such an empowering thing. Even if she is just like a teenager or whatever, but she also has a bunch of like conflict issues. Like she's separated from her boyfriend, and like that drives a lot of thing, and she like lost her mom in the whole like scene, and she's like constantly looking for her mom and like looking for the people she loves, and that struggle and that like realization, like her mental health decreases, and you can see that in her character, like her like struggle to just keep going and to know that there is that lack of motivation even in the most motivated people. And like there's just both sides to that of Katie, and I definitely feel like when we get like a taste of both, like the empowered woman and the real woman, that's when the real connection happens for me to characters, and like that's part of what draws me to them.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think Veronica Sawyer from Heathers really comes to mind because oh my gosh, she's crazy.
She's nuts. Like
she has
off the walls,
crazy anger issues.
Yeah,
and you know she does terrible things,
right?
But
she's
like you're
not
rooting
arguably
for her.
A horrible person,
right?
But you still want her to succeed in what she's doing. It's wow.
Yeah. And it's a similar thing where like JD, this male character who earns her trust in a romantic way, kind of works his way into her mind, and then eventually, you know, they commit murder together. Like, what? First of all, Heathers is just a whack movie / musical.
Yeah.
What the heck? 80s fever dream. I don't know.
For real.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also crazy to see that like with Veronica Sawyer, like the influence of JD on her, you know, because like that's like the male character brings out almost like the worst in Veronica, but like also you still are rooting for them.
Yeah.
Which God, that's crazy.
I know.
Like I've never really like stepped back and like looked at Heathers from like a realist perspective.
Because we hate the Heathers who are really just, you know, petty high school girls who are victims.
Right.
We kind of don't like JD, you know?
Yeah.
Who is a murderer and terrible, but like we love Veronica.
It's so backwards, and like I never stepped back and looked at it that way.
Yeah. It's really, really crazy.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think and oh my gosh, just we do this all the time. We're like, even with Star Wars, like Rey as a character.
Yeah.
Ignoring the whole Star Wars discussion because I have so much to say on Star Wars and Disney.
Right.
But Rey as a character, also has really big anger issues,
Yeah.
but she's looking to try to do the right thing. And I think it's really cool to see a character like that who is
in
like,
mainstream media too.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars is huge.
yeah. And I think she is a really raw character where she's kind of like that unbridled force of like, I want to do it. I want to get to it. I want to, I'm angry. Like, I have so much passion.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of, I don't know how to say this. Like, it's not monitored. It's not primed. It's not in any way sort of like learned to be, I don't know, more proper. Like, she is there.
Right.
Whereas like Leia, a character I love her. Like,
Right.
let's go, you know?
Yeah.
She has some of the same characteristics where she definitely gets angry.
Mm-hmm.
She has so much passion. She knows what she wants. But at the same time, she's also very reserved and kind of displaying that emotionally.
Yeah, she's careful about how she goes about expressing what
Right.
she wants to get done and like how she gets it done. Whereas Rey is just, I think she thinks before she acts, but she doesn't consider all of the consequences of what she does, and she just does it because it feels right in
Yeah.
the moment. You know, like she acts on her heart instead of on her like with her mind. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean?
Do you think we like need quote unquote near perfect female characters, since we've established that, perfect female character doesn't really exist?
That's a tough question. I think that like definitely it's great to have female characters like
Mhm.
as a whole, because like we need female characters and like that's like unarguable.
Yeah.
But like I feel like having the near perfect female characters,
And we're not talking perfect in like the way of like, I never make a mistake. I'm wonderful.
Right.
I make a cake and it's perfect and it's still, you know what I'm saying?
like 1950s housewife.
Right. Because
Right.
you have like perfect as a person where like they never make mistakes. They're Jesus. And not like morally or whatever. But then you also have perfect as like, I think what I'm talking about is kind of like accurate representations
of women.
of different types of people and women and stuff.
I definitely think that like having the accurate representations is crucial in literature, because like especially like kids like me who like grew up with like nose deep in a book like always, it's definitely, if I didn't have those women characters, I wouldn't have like, books made me who I am today.
Yeah.
And like also with like other media sources, but books are a huge part of who I am today. And if I didn't have these women role models, like these real women examples of like what I can be and like what I can do as a woman, I don't think I would be nearly as confident as I am today. I feel like they've definitely given me like a sense of myself. Like I can see myself in those examples because they're realistic in a way.
Absolutely.
And so I definitely think that that's important to like development and to society in general. Like if you look back in 100 years and you look at the literature of the time, like I want to make sure that like women of that time were represented.
Oh yeah.
You know?
And I think the more we represent different types of people, they can find those stories that they really relate to, because you connect to a story when you relate to it.
Right.
And so I do think that's really important.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything in particular you would like to see in like shows, movies and stuff moving kind of forward farther into the future?
So here's something that like I haven't seen yet, and I don't know if it's because I haven't found the right example of media that has it, but I would love to see like a businesswoman who makes mistakes. Because like I feel like in any movie about like hardworking women, they're always like perfect and like everything.
Or they're
gets
so like
great.
assertively bossy.
Yeah, like there are no like soft businesswomen in
Right.
media, and I feel like that's something that like would be really interesting to see and to see develop.
Yeah.
Because like as a person who's going to be in charge of other people in the future and who's in charge of other people now, I have to find that balance
Right.
between
I totally see that in you.
getting it done and being
Yeah.
soft, and like being a normal person.
Right. Not
know.
constantly like,
Do
tooth
this,
and
do
nail.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
No, yeah. When you're managing tech, like
Mhm.
you're very, like like this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. Why don't you work on this if you could do this? Like, hey, this is this. Like you get things done and you're an amazing, like you got those leadership skills down.
Thanks, Fam.
But it's like and Ted Cruz is amazing because it's a whole family, but it's like constant affection and like, well, not like affection. That's a weird way to put it. But you know what I'm saying? We're like, thank you, I love you. Like you always thank people, you know, you let them know when they're doing great.
Right. And if I make a mistake,
you appreciate them.
I try to own up to it. And I feel like in like the media world, when women make mistakes, they either are too scared to own up to it or they're just not open about making the mistake at all.
Right.
And I feel like having a businesswoman that makes those mistakes and can have that human side and like balance out the like, I need you to do this with the appreciation and then also the sometimes I'm going to make mistakes and that'll happen is super crucial because I've never seen like a woman in charge make mistakes in media before.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. I want to see more androgynous characters. And that's a whole different discussion.
Right. But same.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much
for
joining me in this literature adventure conversation. Is there anything else? What was that noise?
I just wanted to bring this up.
Yeah.
You saw me Google it on my phone.
Yeah.
A great example of like having a real woman example is, so if you've ever heard of the band The Regrets, they're a fantastic band, and they have this song that's called A Living Human Girl, and it's really good. She's like, sometimes like things happen, like I'm gross sometimes because I'm human, but also I'm a woman, and that doesn't make me any less of a woman because I'm gross sometimes. And it's just a really empowering song to listen to. So if you want a good empowering woman song, a real A Living Human Girl by The Regrets.
Amazing. Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah. Well, to all of our listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And thank
Hopefully
you for listening.
Now you can think about your own concept of a perfect female character and what you would like to see in media in the future regarding women. What
kind of characters do you want to see? Put it in the little suggestion box.
Yeah.
I'm going to make that now. I'm going to make a little suggestion box. Okay, cool. Bye.
Bye.
So I'm here with Miss Nickel, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. Is that okay?
Uh-huh.
Cool. So who, out of like any genre, would be your favorite female character and why?
I have a couple. One of them is Scout from To Kill a Mockingbird. I love Scout because she's curious and independent. She's precocious. All things that, and she's really smart, and those are all things I think I admire about her. And then I also really like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is one of my favorite stories because she's searching for something and ultimately realizes that she has had the thing she's searching for all along within herself. So I think that sense of searching is really interesting too.
Yeah, that is really cool. So can you explain a little bit, like, you're like a drama teacher here at the school. How much do you work with like characterization and kind of like what's your role in that?
Characterization is a huge part of acting, making choices that complement the character that you're playing. So anytime an actor is approaching a new character, I like to have them work through background information and do some research first. So pulling information from the text itself to inform the decisions that you're making on stage. Every single character should be played differently. No two people are the same, so no two characters should be portrayed the same way. And then when we're working in rehearsals, I think you can always guide characterization choices by asking questions. So that's what I do sometimes, that's my role. Or I try to get the actors to ask questions on their own so that they don't need me to facilitate that as much.
For sure. Have you ever had to change kind of from the text, from the script, what a character is like?
Yes, because I think, especially if you're working with things that are a little dated, you have to be careful.
For sure.
So, and sometimes characters are written in a way that we wouldn't write them today. I directed a play a few years ago called You Can't Take It With You, and it's a really funny script, but there are problems with the way some of the characters are written that you've got to adjust for a modern audience. It's just not going to read. So you've got to consider audience. You've got to consider, what kinds of choices you're comfortable with making, because a lot of what's given to you in a text, like I said, if it's dated, isn't going to be good for you to use.
Right. So this project is kind of centered around the quote-unquote perfect female character. Do you think there is such a thing?
No, if there were perfect characters, it'd be boring.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Exactly.
perfect.
Awesome, thank you. Well, is there anything else that you have to add or that you'd like to say?
No, other than that, I think that this is a really interesting topic.
Okay.
I'm glad that you're
Awesome.
covering it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so go ahead and tell me.
Okay, so one of the most highly regarded play in American literature is widely accepted to be Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. And I don't personally connect with that play because there aren't any strong female characters in it. It's all about men. When men write plays, when men write stories, the characters are men.
You're right.
Or they're women and written
But they're
by a
talking
man.
about men,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You know, there's a really interesting test. It's called the Bechdel test. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically like in any sort of production, is there a female, like more than one female character, and do those female characters talk to each other?
Oh.
And do they talk to each other about anything other than a man, or like a male character? Which I thought was really interesting, because you start looking at these films, it's like, you know, like Katniss from Hunger Games is like, oh, strong female character, you know, she's a fighter, but like, you know, it would be interesting to go back and look at it and like, how often are these widely regarded like strong female characters having conversations about guys or like male things? I don't know. It's just really interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, how do you overcome that when you've got the years of literary history, thousands of years of literary history, or maybe not, you know,
Right.
close to that, where it's been dominated by men.
Yeah.
So our history, the way of understanding female characters is from a largely male perspective. And it's good that things are changing.
Yeah.
But it may take some time for the common culture to understand female characters differently.
Do you think, like, if we could get close, like the female characters you like to see, because there are kind of a few types, do you think it would be more like representation as like realness, just like really genuine female characters that like, this is a person, you know, maybe they're really gross and disgusting and they're a terrible person, but you know, like they're the protagonist and somehow it's whatever, like they're just kind of like that realness, or like kind of this idealized female like idol of, you know, like doing all the things a woman should do. Like,
I mean, I think that there's room for both. I think in storytelling there's room for both. But I think that for modern audiences, stories that are more compelling are going to be the first thing that you said.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the TV show Fleabag, that just won a bunch of Emmys. And it was written by a woman, and the main character is portrayed by the same woman that wrote it. Okay. And if you haven't seen it, it's really good.
Yeah.
But it's... she's playing a real person. She is certainly not perfect, and she embraces that imperfection. And I think that that's really important for people to learn to do, because none of us are perfect. So we need to model our behavior after people who aren't, after characters who aren't.
Yeah. I remember, okay, so I used to, well, I still do, the show Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah,
It was fantastic. Like, she's such a real character, too.
Yes.
To the point where it got to a certain episode where she was doing something that I know, like, younger me would definitely do, where the secondhand embarrassment was so strong that I actually haven't watched the show in, like, months.
Yeah.
Like, I need to start watching it again, but, like,
Well, and that show won Emmys, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, this need for modern audiences to see that,
Yeah.
I think is something that's really happening in our culture recently, has been happening recently.
Yeah. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful.
If you like that show, you should watch Fleabag.